Welcome back to Her Birth, Her Story, where we share real birth experiences. I'm Brooke, your host, and today on Her Birth, Her Story, we're sharing a story rooted in faith, trust, and surrender. My guest, Alexis, is a stay-at-home mom of 2 boys. We get to hear how she chose home birth for her first baby and how she was approaching birth with just deep belief in surrendering to God's will. We can hear the contrasting difference between her first home birth experience and her second home birth experience. Her journey is a beautiful reminder that empowerment comes not from control, but from release and faith. Today, we're holding a space for her story as we continue reclaiming birth. Thanks for coming on Her Birth, Her Story. You are a stay-at-home mom. Can you just kind of briefly tell us what that's like?
Right now, it's just, really chill. It's so slow. The days are just nice. We live in the country, so we're outside a lot, even in the snow currently. Lots of snow. Spent a lot of time outside yesterday just playing in the snow, and I'm just trying to live in the moment because I know it gets crazier as they get older. So,
For sure.
taking it slow.
I think that's awesome. Had mentioned that both of your births were home births. What initially drew you to wanting a home birth in general, but especially for your first?
I kind of, since I was a teenager, knew that my first would be a home birth. I think there was just even my mom didn't have any home births. Actually, all 5 of me and all 4 of my younger siblings were C-sections because she has scoliosis and had a steel rod fused against her spine. So she tried with me and couldn't. And so we were all C-sections. So besides that was so I saw her side and then her being no, if you can have a baby at home, do it. And
Wow.
my aunt had all 3 of her kids at home. And then there was lots of friends of my mom that had their kids at home, all with the same midwife. So I knew I was I'm going with this midwife. And it was just that's what I'm doing. There was no question about anything else.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I love that too. And just that even though your mom didn't specifically experience that she still encouraged you to do that, which is amazing because I feel like that's always the reason too why people steer away with their first. Because if you say that you're having a home birth, depending on how your family is, a lot of times family members like to be like, oh, well, are you sure? Is that safe? Or it just puts doubt in the back of your head. And
Mhm.
that's the last thing that you need as a first time mom, especially going against the norm. So I just think that's awesome that you had a great support system to encourage you to do that. And I'm really excited to hear your birth stories. So I'm going to let you just kind of set the stage for the story. And I'm just going to let you tell your first home birth uninterrupted.
Okay. So my oldest, who is 3 now, I had known I was gonna have a home birth. And as we were getting closer to his due date, I was starting to get really anxious because I was super swollen. And I'm pretty sure getting close to it could turn into an emergency, and I just didn't want to go to the hospital. Doctors are not my favorite.
Get
Nothing
it.
against them. It's just
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
so I was starting to get really upset. My diet was super strict and everything, no sodium at all. I was basically just eating chicken and eggs,
Man.
so and meat, but I couldn't salt anything. So it was really stressful on me. And I ended up going into labor 9 days early. And I think it was God. He just knew that I really didn't want to go to the hospital. And so I went into labor and at I think 3:34 sometime AM. Um, and I was in labor for about 12 hours. So my mom and my sister, I had them come over. My husband was basically my doula. I hadn't actually done that much research beforehand. I was just super chill about the whole thing. I've
Yeah.
got this. It'll be fine. The midwife had given me a little booklet to read on it, and I just didn't really study anything or
Yeah.
I wish I would have now, but so, like, at one point, I was laboring in the bathtub, and the midwife, she was laid back, so she just sent my mom in. She's like, "Go tell her, like, she needs to breathe or she's gonna pass out." And so my mom came in and would, like, relate that to me, and so
Yeah.
I just tried to relax and everything, but it just wasn't very good at it. I didn't prepare, I didn't
Mhm.
practice
Yeah.
any of that beforehand. And, like, the one thing I didn't wanna do was to give birth on my back, and that is what ended up happening. It
Wow.
was I mean, it was in our own home, though,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, like, there's still a lot of, blessings in that. Just now looking back, I'm like, I really wish I would've known to do more research instead of just being like, "Okay, here's this will be fine, this will work." Yeah, so, like, I had made a birth rope beforehand. In my mind, that's how I wanna give birth. I don't wanna lay down on my back. I don't wanna do a water birth. I didn't wanna do a water birth solely because everyone I felt like was doing them. And I
Wow.
was like, since everyone's doing it, like, I wanna do something different. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I wish I would have done that differently too, but so I ended up like I was laboring with the birth rope thinking like I'm gonna push the baby out soon. And my arms were going numb. So then I tried to birth stool and my butt was going numb.
Wow.
And so like then she's like, "Well, let's just try on your back." And I really didn't want to, but at this point I was just so tired. And I had to have my mom and my husband hold my legs up as I was pushing. And then my cervical flap was like or lip was, like, caught on his head, and so she had to, like, move that out of the way, and so she was, like, telling me to push instead of me just, like, going with my body and waiting until, like, the right time, but it was still a beautiful birth.
Yeah.
His cry, literally the cutest. I'm so thankful that my sister caught it on camera, and our midwife was a Christian, and she was, like, praising God, like, as I had him, and so that was, like, all really special to me.
Yeah.
So that's how the first birth went.
I personally just think that that first moment, that first cry, that moment of the baby on your chest is just forever etched in your brain. I feel like even if
Yes.
you forget some of the little details and stuff, like that moment, that memory, like that is like no other. What I'm getting from your first story too is just how education too is so important because
Mhm.
it's not birth isn't just like anything else, really. And you don't know what you don't know. You know, looking back at this first birth and stuff, what do you think were the biggest lessons or takeaways that then helped you to approach your second differently?
Um, the biggest takeaways I'd say was just, like, being more educated. I feel like my labor would have been like, it was already a really good labor if you're comparing it to most. Just educating myself and educating my husband more too. And also, like, just not being stressed about anything. There were some stressful things going on at like, in that time, and
Yeah.
I just needed to kinda chill a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just being pregnant, like, it was everything bothered me.
I'm going to let you now set the stage for your second home birth. So if you have any background information to kind of set the stage for that, but then I'm going to let you tell that story uninterrupted as well.
Okay, so this second time around, I came across the pain-free birth course. I don't remember how long I was pregnant with him,
Mm.
but I got super excited. I was like, "Oh, wait, what?" Like, I was following someone who had an 11-pound baby, and she had shared that she did this and was, like, completely shocked at how big her baby was. And I was like, "I wanna look into that." And it was a little bit pricey, so I was, like, on the fence, like, "Is it worth it?" But then she did a free webinar, and I was, able to listen to that, and I was convinced. I was like, "Wait, this is amazing."
Yeah.
So, uh, I was like, "David, can I get this? Like, I think this will be, like, so beneficial." And he's, like, cool with anything. And he's like, "Yeah, if you think so, like, do it. Like, that's
Oh,
awesome." So, that is what I did leading up to his birth. I was so excited about it as I'm going through it, sharing the stuff I'm learning with everyone. I had been having a Braxton Hicks contractions, which I didn't notice with my first, but I noticed them like halfway into my pregnancy, or probably halfway through the second trimester with Jeremiah. And we were sick. We had gotten whooping cough at the beginning of this year, and my toddler had it so bad. And so, like, every time I'd have a coughing fit, like, I'd have a contraction. And I was like, this baby's gonna end up coming early because, like, it was getting really bad around like 37 weeks. And I was like ready to meet him, but also like, if you could just stay inside safe, like you're safe in there, I don't have to worry about you getting sick. And like, so it was like going back and forth emotionally, like, come out, don't come out. And so around 38 weeks, I started like going up the stairs sideways. And I was like, I think it's time for you to come out. And I just learned that babies come when they want to. It doesn't matter like what you do. So
Yeah.
I was doing like curb walking and everything. And um, we were also buying a house at this time, and I needed to switch my license over still. Like, I tend to procrastinate way too much. And so, like, all this stuff going on, we had gone to the DMV on March 3rd, and I was pretty sure, like, I was starting labor. Just my body preparing, and I was like, "Am I in labor? I don't know." Leading up to that, and then that morning around 4:30, I had some like contractions that felt a little more intense than like Braxton Hicks. Um, I had like fallen back asleep. Like I was a little anxious, like maybe this is it. No, I fell back asleep, and I had a dream that I had him and that we didn't know the gender. So I had a dream that I had him and he was a boy. I had thought like this whole pregnancy I was having a girl. But my dream was like he was a boy, and I was like, "It's okay, mommy loves you. Like, I don't care if you're a boy or a girl." And then, like, all of a sudden, like, there's like a flash of light, and I woke up and to like a crazy like contraction. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, I think I'm having a boy." But kind of forgot about that, like going forward.
Yeah.
And so getting through the day, like I had gotten my license, I'm in labor the whole time, but my contractions were like not terrible. Like, I could function fine and everything. And we had come back. My family had rented an Airbnb, hoping I'd have the baby around the due date, because they live like 6 hours away. I hadn't told anyone but my sister-in-law, who was staying with us, also hoping the baby would come around the due date. So we get home, I make lunch, and I am like, my family's supposed to come over, and that's when I finally tell them. I'm like, "Okay, so just so you know, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor now." This was my due date.
Wow.
It was just like wa walking around the house, talking with everyone, like making coffee, and then I was finally like, "Okay." My mom asked me, she's like, "So, like, are you having contractions?" And I was like, "Yeah, when I get quiet and don't really talk during the conversation is because 'cause I'm having a contraction." She's like, "Okay." I was like, "Actually, I'm gonna go upstairs now because I was like, I need to just get a couple of things ready that I should have already had ready." I couldn't find some stuff. I was like, "What in the world?" Like, pregnancy brain. Like, I was like,
Yep.
couldn't find it, and I tried to, like, look in between contractions and finally, like, sat on my, exercise ball and was like, "I just need to relax because I'm going for pain, like, the most pain-free I could possibly have, like, birth." And so just really relaxing through the contractions and focusing and breathing and all that. I had my mom, my sister, my sister-in-law, and my husband coming, like, in and out of the room, like, making sure I'm okay, sitting with me. I like to talk in between contractions and just, like, have a good time, laugh and everything, and which is funny because my younger brother, he's 12, and he had come up at one point, and he actually came up to complain because my mom was in the room. He's like, "I'm tired." I was like, as he walks in, like, a contraction starts. It was a very intense one too. And my mom was like, "Jonathan, get out of the room. She's having a contraction." And so he's like, and like walks out of the room. I hear him walking down the stairs and he just says, "Well, that was really bad timing." And like, he's just so funny. I had not I let the midwife know that I was in labor, and she was like, "Well, should I come over?" And I was like, "Well, I don't think I'm that far along yet." Because with Levi, I had lost my mucus plug. I didn't with Jeremiah. And so I was waiting for like bloody show or something.
Yeah.
And to be like, "Okay, yeah, come over now." And she was helping out, assisting at another labor, like at the time, an hour and a half away from our house. Uh, I had moved to the shower and was having, like, pretty intense contractions, but I wouldn't, like, say it, like, was painful at all yet. And David calls the midwife and is like, or I can't remember the details quite right, but he was messaging or calling the midwife, and she's like, "I don't think I'll be able to make it," because the other lady was about to have her baby, and she's like, "I'll send, this other midwife," who I had actually, like, reached out to when I was trying to find a midwife, but she had never gotten back to me, so I just went with this other lady. She calls David, and David's like, "I'm in the middle of a contraction." And he's like, "Do you think she needs to come?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And so she's like 45 minutes away and starts heading to our house. They get the birth pool ready downstairs. They have everything set up. My dad, he like helped with all this because he had to hook the hose up to like where the washer hooked up and everything. And it was such a blessing that he could be there and help set it up. And then he took Levi, my toddler, um, him and my younger brother took him to the Airbnb and they watched him there, which I had originally wanted Levi to be at the birth. I thought that would be special, but like wasn't thinking the fact that he's just a very hyper toddler. He's a
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
And so it was like a huge blessing that they took him. And then so I moved down the stairs. And so I actually made it all the way down into the birth pool, like without having a contraction.
Wow.
Yeah, and, immediately, like, it just felt so good. I was like, "Why didn't I do this with my first?" Labored in there for a little while, and I was set on the fact that I was not going to push unless my body, like, started pushing for me, and I did that. I was really focused on my breathing. Both my husband and my mom would just, like, remind me, like, "Don't forget to relax your shoulders, relax, relax," which is very helpful. And then finally, like, I started, like, sinking into each contraction, and then all of a sudden, I started feeling pushy, and I was like, "Wait, I'm not gonna push." And like, my body was just starting to push.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna follow my body. Like, God designed my body to have a baby. Like, I'm just gonna go with it. And so, the midwife ended up showing up, the backup one, which kinda crazy story, but so she showed up, um, probably a half hour before he was born, and I was a little worried because I had never talked to her before, and I'm like, "Is she gonna be, like, hands off like I wanted," which I had talked to my other midwife and, like, explained everything, like, hands off as much as possible, and she was, so it was a huge blessing. She just checked his heartbeat, and she was like, "You're doing great, mom, like, you've got this," like, and just sat there and watched, and, like, it was really nice. She did ask, like, for, "Where's this, and this?" And I was like, I don't know, I couldn't find it, like, a few of the things that I needed, like gloves and stuff like that, and thankfully she did have some. That was the only, like, a little bit stressful part. I was getting really close to having him and just feeling very pushy, and I felt like his head, like, crowning and then, like slipping back, and that probably happened, like, a couple times, and then, I think it was the push or 2 before, like, he was born, he kicked so much, like, in the middle of a contraction. I was like, "Ouch," like, "Could you not do that?" I was like, "Don't kick." But I also talked to him during labor, and I was like, "You've got this, like, we can do this, we've got this." After that is when he, like, kicked, like, he was kicking himself out, I don't know, but it was, like, crazy. I remember, like, I'm pushing him out, trying to relax, I was moaning a lot, and, um I just like he just kept, like, kinda slipping back, and this all happened, like, within, I don't know, like, just a couple minutes, but I had felt because with Levi, I've felt him, and I could feel, like, his head, his hair, and everything, and, my water hadn't broken yet, and I couldn't feel, like, I had felt, but I couldn't feel his head because I was feeling, like, the sack that he was in still, and so I finally, like, pushed him out, and then, the midwife, like, took the sack off as he was born because he was born in the sack. So, like, she as I'm, like, giving birth, she unwraps him and then, like, lays him on my chest, and he didn't hardly cry. Compared to Levi, he hardly cried, and I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
"He's
Wow.
not crying, is he okay?" And the midwife was just so, like, sweet about everything. She just laid him on my chest and rubbed him gently. It was just so sweet. Then we found out he was a boy, and so that was really exciting. Wasn't expecting that.
Was, like, the sac intact, like, it wasn't bursted yet, or what did it burst as he was coming out? You get what I'm saying?
It didn't burst until so, like, as I was having him, she, like, put her fingers through it and, like, peeled it off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was just watching the video earlier today because my sister got it on video again for me,
That's
and I was
awesome.
like so I went back and watched it, and yeah, he's born in the sack, but
Mhm.
he was, like, halfway out when she, like, unwrapped him, so it was, like, as I was pushing, like, the last push, like, 'cause so I pushed and his head came out, and then you could see, like, he's in the sack and everything still, and then, like, as I the final push, she, like, unwrapped it and then, like,
Wow.
laid it right on my chest.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's, like
Yeah.
that's, like, super rare.
Yeah.
Did you realize that he was still in the sack besides, like, obviously touching? Did you realize that, or was that, like, a like, kind of, like, hindsight, then you realized that she did that, took him out of the sack?
So she had told me, like, if I remember it, like, as I was having him, like, that he was still in the sack. So that was the only, like, realization I had was when she had told me, because I was expecting, like, my water to just break at the very end.
Oh,
With
for sure.
Levi, the midwife broke my water because my water wasn't breaking. And I was like, sure. Like I said, I didn't study with him. So
Yeah,
with this one, I was like, no, like, just
let it be.
let it happen when it happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be born, like, in the sack, and I didn't realize it was rare either, and apparently I looked that up too. Apparently, it's, like, 1 in, like, 80,000.
Yeah.
So, I was like, "Wait, that's kinda crazy."
You had said too about how this midwife that's attending to you is somebody that you've never met before. Can you kind of just like walk us through what was like going through your mind meeting somebody for the first time and then birthing your baby literally with a stranger?
Yeah, so I was a little worried about it at first when I'm like, "Okay, so she's coming. I haven't talked to her about anything. I, like, haven't told her." I like to be as cautious in a way that most people aren't. So, like, I don't like the Doppler. Like, I normally, when we would go hear our baby's heartbeat, I'm like, "Doppler for 10 seconds." That's enough time for them to get the heartbeat and everything. That's it. I didn't do ultrasounds with either of my babies just because I was like, I just want them to be the healthiest it can be. If I feel like God's telling me to go get an ultrasound or something, like, I'll do it, but other than that, like, I didn't want to, and that's where, like, David's amazing because he's just, like, okay with all my craziness, like, if that's what you wanna call it, I don't know. So, like, meeting her, like, all these things, I was, like, just a little worried, like, is she gonna be more, like, hands-on or hands-off? Really wanted hands-off, and I didn't wanna have to be, like I didn't wanna have to tell her any of that.
Yeah.
So she, like, checked his heartbeat and then just, like, kinda sat back and was like, "You're doing great." Completely, like, hands off, once she realized that, like, I didn't have anything ready for her, which I feel really bad about. But also, like, just the difference between each midwife too. Like, my other midwife is gonna bring more stuff along, where she normally has her moms get a kit so that she doesn't have to bring as much.
Gotcha.
So, like, yeah, I felt bad, but next time I'll prepare more.
Yeah. Well, and in your defense, it's not really your fault though either, especially because you didn't anticipate that a backup midwife is going to be coming to deliver your baby too. So, that's just one of those things where it was a rare occasion.
But it was really nice because she was just very nice, and it was, like, the most comfortable, like, meeting a stranger you could possibly have while giving birth to a baby.
I love that she was like hands off too and just like really supported you. It's just nice that that midwife was still at least respectful for you to have a good home birth too. So you guys waited to find out the gender for your second, right? Did you find out the
Mhm.
gender with your first? No. Oh, okay. So now both of them you waited to find out the gender. What can you describe or explain what that moment of figuring out, obviously, that you were having a boy or whatever, in that moment of them being on your chest, what was that like?
I just feel like it's very special. Like, I had gone back and forth a few times, like, well, we could get, like, the blood test to figure out the gender, but I really want it to be a surprise. From everyone that I've ever talked to that's done both, they're always like, "Oh, it's more special if you wait for it to be a surprise."
Yeah.
And so, we had done it with our first, and it was just very special when you're like, "Oh, he's a boy," and then you give them their name. We had
Yeah.
names picked out already,
Yeah.
but, like, and then we're like, "Okay, it's Levi," and then tell it we also didn't tell anyone, like, the names we had picked out, and then so doing that with Jeremiah also and being like, "He's a boy." Like, it was a little more surprising because I my pregnancy was just so much better than my first pregnancy that I really was convinced I was having a girl. Everyone was convinced I was having a girl.
Wow.
And so, like, that was more of a shock, and I don't know, it was just I think it's very special.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I found out the gender with both of mine, but God willing, if we have a third, I'm definitely waiting. And my husband is on board to do that too. Just
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I feel like just like you said, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's just really special and like I like surprises too.
Mhm.
So I just think it'd be really fun. So now kind of walking into your birth through like the faith aspect. You had mentioned kind of that one of the core beings of, I don't know, maybe your second birth, maybe both, I don't know, was just full surrender to God.
Mhm.
Can you just tell us what did surrender look like in real time to you?
Yeah. So I guess I skipped over this part, but when I was laboring with my second, I was having a very hard time relaxing. And at first, when I was still like on the exercise ball, and I was like, Lord, this is not how I was expecting it to be. This was supposed to be less painful, and I'm struggling so much to relax. And I was just like, I need your help. And I just like remember like me speaking those words, like it helped me be able to relax. And he just helped me through the rest of the labor, like so much. And just me being like, having to refocus about me doing it all and being like, God, I need your help because I can't do this by myself. So that was like a core memory of my labor with him. That was like or more early on in active labor.
Yeah. We can't do this in our own strength anyways, so
Mhm.
that surrender, like, is crucial. I'm sure that it kind of felt like a weight was kinda, like, lifted off your shoulders a little bit
Mhm.
because you were more focused on, surrendering to God than your certain circumstances that you're going through with, the discomfort of labor and stuff.
Yeah.
So, how would you say that your relationship with God has really, like, shaped the way that you view birth or the way that you view women's bodies being designed by him to be able to do those things?
Mhm. Just that like he's ultimately in control. And so like whatever happens, just like being like, well, God, you are in control and you will make all things work out for the good. And so just it helps me so much, like, not to be anxious, just always keeping that, like, in the forefront of my memory and being like, "Stop worrying about this," or "Stop worrying about that." Like, God will just be there for you when you need him. And a quote I heard earlier this year, so after I had Jeremiah, was just that God doesn't help you in your worry, he helps you when you need it. And that's stuck with me because, like, I never used to worry, but becoming a mom, like, there's just so much worry I feel like comes with that. And I was like, "Well, what if this happens or what if that happens?" And, this lady was like, "God doesn't help you in the what ifs, but if you ever need him because 'cause you're going through something like that, he will be there to help you." And that's just so comforting to also just, like, help me go back and be like, "Well, God's got this. Like, I don't have to worry about it."
Yeah. No, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. What encouragement would you give a first-time mom or just other women who want to prepare for birth spiritually, mentally, just to really help them in that surrender?
I'd say pray a lot and really listen for the little nudges God gives us, even in the little things. But don't also be like paranoid either. Like, oh, is God telling me this or is he telling me that? Like, we still have to make the choices we make too. And just like really prepare, do your research. There's a lot of good books out there. I mean, there's courses out there that really help you, and don't let what other people are telling you define how your birth is gonna be. Because God gave the baby to you, like, you're the one having the baby, they're not. So, like, take what they say, but if they're being negative about anything, don't. Don't just don't listen and just do your research.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah. And especially in the world, I feel like we just always get into this like comparison game too. And I really like that you touched on like God gave you this baby.
Mhm.
You already have a mother's intuition too. That's why it's important to, have a good community around you too to support you, but also like don't feel like you have to tell everybody how you're planning on birthing, and you don't need to ask advice from everyone, and you don't need to take all advice that's given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I do, with both of my babies. Like, I didn't tell, most people, like, my plans. Like, I still don't really tell people that I don't get ultrasounds
Yeah.
because they're gonna be like, "What? Like, what? What's wrong with you?" And it's like, well, I don't want the ultrasound from that to affect them in their development. But I'm like, people don't need to know.
Yeah.
It's my baby. Like, they don't need to know what I'm doing.
For
But
sure.
yeah.
And sometimes, like, in that too, less is best too, because, like, once again, nobody needs to know. What is anybody benefiting from? Like, if you and your husband and obviously your midwife or anybody on your birth team's on the same page,
Mhm.
then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's your baby, your birth,
Mhm.
and that's important. And, leading into your husband, you had mentioned that he was your biggest support.
Mhm.
How did he support you during, pregnancy, birth, labor, postpartum? What were some of his biggest things that he did to support you?
Um, so during labor, like, so sweet. He'd just be very gentle and would be like, "Well, do you need me to massage like your back? Like, where does it hurt? Like, what do you want me to do?" And that was helpful more with my second because my sister is wanting to become a doula. So she was showing him actually how to do the hip presses or whatever it's called.
Like the hip
And like,
squeeze?
yes, the hip squeeze, and how to do it correctly because he didn't know how to do it correctly, and so, like, stuff like that, like, just the little things and him being there for me to be like, "Can you do this? Don't touch me." And then, "Can you do that? Don't touch me." Like,
Yeah.
going back and forth between, like, "I need you," and then back off, like, and just being very understanding, even though I'm sure, like, he doesn't understand,
Yeah.
but then just, um, not being, like, frustrated or anything like that, just, like, being there for when I need him and everything. I think definitely postpartum with the second one is harder just because of the transition from 1 to 2, so then he's, having to make sure, like, Levi's okay and then checking on me. I love that he's okay with doing whatever, like, he doesn't mind changing diapers, he doesn't mind helping out me, and he's just very sweet. It's very nice.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to him for being a great support of you, because I really think that that does change kind of the outcome sometimes for labor and postpartum, because women go through a lot. And
Mhm.
even though we're designed to do this and it's very empowering, it still makes a difference when you have a support system, and especially it
Yeah.
being your husband to just love you and care for you, because the baby is obviously important, but you know what? So are you. So
Mhm.
shout out to him for that, because that's amazing. If our listeners or their spouse is listening to, what advice would you give them if they wanted to kind of show up in the same way for their wife?
I would say, like, really find out what she expects from you. And then when she's going into labor, like, if she told you something before labor that she expected, but then during labor, she's like, "No, get away from me. Like, do not touch me. Like, I don't want you. Just leave me alone." Because it hurts.
Yeah.
It's very intense. Um, then just, like, don't get frustrated. Just, like, realize what she's going through and be, like, solid for her and just, like, so she can lean on you when she needs you and you can help her and yeah. So just be, like, there for her, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say that obviously communication with not only your husband, but also like your birth team is like a game changer?
Yes, very much. Yeah.
from our conversation, I can tell that you're just very passionate about encouraging other women to learn, ask questions,
Mhm.
prepare, and
Mhm.
just trust God's plan and how He has designed our bodies. So, what were the most helpful things that you did to prepare mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally?
So physically, I would say I was in so much more shape this time, probably because I'm chasing around a toddler, like
Yeah.
literally chasing him. So I ran. I'm like, one of the things I did, like hoping to help me go into labor, was I ran up a hill and back down.
Yeah.
9 months, almost 9 months pregnant. And like, I felt so good. Like, I know some people are like, don't exercise at all. And I know you have to do what's right for you, but I feel like you should, stay active, go on walks at least. I feel like it changes so much. I was trying to do squats every day. Didn't work out, but I've heard like that's very, very helpful
Yeah.
for having preparing for labor and everything. And so I was just like, just a bunch of different things physically, plus chasing around a toddler. I just felt so good, even though I was still sick at the time. Like, I didn't actually get over being sick, I think, for like 3 weeks after I had Jeremiah, like, which was not fun, but like just feeling good, even though I wasn't feeling good. And mentally, I think it's really good just to do your homework, work on whatever fears you might have, like, work hard getting rid of them. Don't let anxiety take over because it'll be okay. Even if you were to like you're trying to have a home birth and you have to go to the hospital, like it's going to be okay. Like God is going to be there. He's going to help you through everything. And that just really helped me. The second time around is just like, whatever happens, like it's going to be okay. Like as long as the baby's healthy, like you
Mhm.
don't have to freak out about stuff.
Yeah.
Cause I know not all people are like that, but
Yeah.
I'm a little more like that where I get really worried. I might not show it on the outside, but in the inside, like I'm like all worried and stressed about something. And then I just have to be like, take a step back and be like, no, just breathe. It's fine.
I think that that also just points to our motherly intuition too. Obviously, you're going to worry a little bit because you want yourself to be safe, but more importantly, that baby means everything to you too, to where you are not going to put yourself in a situation purposely that is harmful for you and the baby. And so, I think that that also leads into why educating yourself is very important too. Not that you have to be the doctor and know every single thing, but when
Yeah.
you're combating fear, learning that really helps you to just advocate for yourself and to
Mhm.
also get rid of some of that fear too, because you know the process a little bit better. And so I just think that's great advice for the listeners too, of just one, surrender to God because ultimately His will is what's going to happen. And two, educate yourself because I don't feel like even if you go to a hospital and if a first time mom's listening and they're like kind of on the fence, they're like, I want to home birth, but I don't know. Like, what if something goes wrong? Or maybe it's not for me, or whatever. They just have some fear with it. What would you want her to know?
I feel like everyone should do what's right for them, but I would say it stems down to like, well, why are you saying like you're not sure? Like, if you want to have a home birth, like, what's holding you back? And then figure that out. And then if the reason, like, figure out those reasons and like, well, do they really matter? Like, maybe it's your mom's telling you. Moms are very smart.
Yeah.
So, especially my mom. So, normally, like, if she says something, like, I've just realized, like, I need to definitely think about what she says, but I know there's a lot of moms out there that like they they just worry and they haven't educated themselves on home birth. So they think it's something that's dangerous when it's actually safer than having your baby in the hospital. Statistics are kind of crazy of like how just dangerous it is to go to the hospital and have a baby and the different things that they do and that just disrupts or can cause infections and like just educate yourself.
Yes.
Which is what, like, the course I did really explained all that stuff very well, and it was kinda shocking, like, just some of the stuff that they do, but then they're like, "Oh, but don't do this." But then it's like, "But they do that, and that's worse." So, like, I'd say figure out yeah, just figure out what your worry is behind going to the hospital instead of home. And if it really would be a problem, then you feel like you should go to the hospital, then as long as you have a healthy baby, like I just like the comfort of being home
Yeah.
and not having doctors poking and prodding at me and nurses who may or may not be nice and are trying to get me to do stuff I don't want to do. Like, you're very vulnerable when you're in labor. You don't want people trying to change your mind on if you're going to do this or that or so,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, for sure. I definitely agree with that. What do you think is the biggest misconception when it comes to home birth?
That is dangerous, probably. It's it's not. It's just not. I think I've maybe heard, like, 1 or 2 bad stories that would have still been bad stories in the hospital. Like, just there was nothing the midwife or a doctor could do. If you have a midwife there, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's your first baby. Have a free birth," you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I think that's the biggest misconception.
So then do you feel like your midwife was able to educate you and made you feel confident of if there were to be an emergency or something kind of go differently than maybe planned, that she was qualified or certified or had the right equipment to help?
I feel like that just wasn't something that I was too concerned about. With Levi, I had heard a bad story growing up about a baby whose umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck 3 times,
Wow.
and so he was born blue. He survived. I'm pretty sure it was a home birth and was completely fine. But so that was like the only fear I had with Levi, and he was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck once. I had no idea about this until afterwards. My mom said the midwife was so, like, smooth. She's like, just one fluid motion, like, unwrapped, said, like I think they call it a nuke cord, and just, like, slipped it off of his neck really fast, didn't make a big deal out of it, like, it was just, like, normal. Like, she had that, and I didn't have any other concerns. I I don't want a doctor. That's why I chose a midwife. So I don't want my midwife to be a doctor
Yep.
because then they're gonna act like a doctor and act like they know more than you, even though it doesn't really seem like they do.
Yeah.
And with my second midwife actually wasn't a certified midwife.
Wow.
She was a doula, and what she could get in trouble for,
Yeah.
but I was very comfortable. She had, done a lot of Amish births, which was, like, my first midwife, and I feel like they're just really good. I trusted her. I was completely okay with that. She didn't end up making it in time, which was okay, totally fine with that, but I was still, like I just didn't feel like anything would go wrong.
Yeah.
I wasn't I didn't wanna dwell on the what ifs, just being focused on, like, "Gonna have a healthy baby." It's what I've been praying for the whole pregnancy. If you want your midwife to have the knowledge of a doctor, then go have your baby at a hospital with a doctor instead of having a home birth with the midwife, because I feel like they have so much knowledge that I wish I had. Like, they've really studied all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is a misconception that they are not certified or not prepared to. They don't just show up and they're not just there for the birth. They are educated in birth. So they know signs and stuff too, if there is something that, maybe is going a little south too, that they can act upon, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they think that they need, like, okay, we need to go to the hospital because this is something that's out of my control. Like, from my experience, at least, they've been like, so where is the nearest hospital to you? Like, figuring this stuff out beforehand if something were to happen
Yeah.
where they would need to transfer you.
Yeah, because I just feel like people always act like choosing home birth is just so irresponsible and stuff. And to be honest, I just think it's the opposite of that. I think that you're really listening to your body and, you obviously have people that you trust, like your midwife
Mhm.
too, whether no matter what certification they have. I feel like a lot of people can become an expert in things the more that you study and the more that you read and the more that you learn, that I think it's important to do that, I guess. So when you look back on both of your births, what is one word or phrase that you would say captures each of your experiences?
Just amazing, probably. Like, they were both amazing in their own way.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I just think it's amazing how you literally had 2 home births, didn't even find out the gender. One baby was born in a sack, and a guest midwife showed up to your house. I just think that that is so neat and just speaks to women's power and intuition too when it comes to birthing babies. I always end my show asking every mom this question. If you could speak one piece of empowering wisdom into the hearts of the mothers listening, what would it be?
Probably just trust God, trust yourself, and educate yourself. Like, you're never gonna be upset that you did any of those. You're never gonna be like, "Oh, I wish I didn't." It's always gonna be, "I wish I did."
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so powerful. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story and coming on Her Birth, Her Story.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Her Birth, Her Story. Alexis's story is a beautiful reminder that for some women, empowerment comes through surrender, through trust and faith, and just releasing control into God's hands, God's will, God's plan. Her home birth journey shows the peace that can come when we just trust the way that our bodies and our babies were created. And even when things were kind of unknown when it came to the midwife that was going to be there, she still had peace because she was just fully into surrender to God. And no matter how your birth unfolds, when you feel educated and are in that surrender, you're going to feel more confident in whatever that path might look like for birth for you. So until next time, we'll keep reclaiming birth one story at a time. Thank you so much for listening to Her Birth, Her Story. If today's episode resonated with you or empowered you, please share it with another mama who needs the same encouragement. And don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and review. It helps the episodes reach more women and empower more women. Just remember, no matter where or how you give birth, this is your body, your baby, and your birth. We are reclaiming birth one story at a time.